I didn't have like any intention or desire to do anything arts related whatsoever. Actually, I had like a lot of teachers telling me, hey, maybe this actually isn't for you.
What do you think changed?
I think what it was, I knew kind of deep down that I did want to pursue the arts. It wasn't at all what I was expecting going in. You know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it my way. I do think it is important for a lot of actors to do that trial and error and figure out what doesn't work for them. Competition here is so intense. I think a lot of actors now are losing out on live performing. Don't think of it as a self-tape, think of it as your close-up shot. But you just have to trust that whatever you did with your prep is enough to just let you be in the moment.
Before we get into the interview, I would appreciate it so much if you hit that subscribe button. It helps us out and it doesn't cost you a damn thing. Hello and welcome. I'm always so awkward when I start these. I just want to jump in and start asking you about how you got into acting. When did the acting bug bite you?
High school.
High school?
High school for sure.
Theater?
Yeah, musical theater specifically, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I was thinking about this a lot recently, how back when I was a kid, I didn't have like any intention or desire to do anything arts related whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, it's, you know, I was a lot more like shy, introverted, closed off when I was a kid. And aside from, you know, when you're in elementary school and you have to do some of those like pageant kind of stuff or like assembly performances, never would go out of my way to do any kind of performance in front of a group of people. Not my cup of tea. And then it was so weird because I was picking classes for my grade 9 year of high school. And the high school that I went to in your grade 9 year, you only get one elective. And I was trying to figure out what to take. And so I thought, I'll take music because part of the, what you call it, the, not the accommodations, the
electives?
Yeah. You had to take an art class at some point.
Right.
And so I'm like, all right, I'll just do music, whatever. And the night before I had to hand in my registration package, I was going through everything, making sure I had like all the info right. And I got to this music course and for whatever reason, just crossed it out and put drama instead.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny calling.
And the rest was history.
You're from Midland area.
I am.
Did you go to MSS?
St. T's.
St. T's. Okay, gotcha.
You're from there as well, or?
Yeah, I went to Elmvale High School.
Oh,
I was like in Hillsdale,
okay.
Little town, so we went over to Elmvale. But
it's blowing my mind knowing like how many people from that area
left.
Well,
but in the arts too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's so like, especially for like from St. T's in particular. Mm-hmm. I'm like one of, I don't know, like 6 people I know that are working as an actor. There's a bunch of people I know that are dancers, musicians, singers.
Nice.
No one can explain why. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was thinking about that same thing with Elmvale. It's like so nice to see people from high school actually like doing the thing, because you always hear the stories of, you know, one person from this school went and became successful in whatever they wanted to do. Right. But it's so nice to see like a collective of people doing the thing as well.
So I remember, I think this was like 2014 or so, when like up north there was like a huge deal because, what's his name? I think Graham Scott Fleming from Elmville.
Oh yeah.
When he got cast in Kinky Boots, everybody up there was like, oh my God, it's possible to actually make it.
You're right? Yeah. I went to high school with him. He was 2 years older than I was. I had a crush on him. It didn't work out.
Still time.
Oh, hilarious. But yeah, so it's so funny how many people come from just that northern area that are doing the damn thing. I love it. It's so awesome.
But what's funny for me is that I know a lot of people, like their whole story is like, oh, I grew up in a small town and then I had to leave, go to the city to discover the arts or whatever. Opposite for me. I had to...
You went to Ottawa, no?
Well, first, I was actually born and raised here in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Then when I was 12 or so, I moved up north. Okay. And I full-heartedly believe that had I stayed here in Toronto, never would have gone to the arts.
Really?
Really.
What? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Why? What do you think? What do you think was the alternate timeline? What would you have done?
The alternate timeline was going to St. Teresa's, because even though it wasn't like a proper art school per se, the arts program there was phenomenal.
Nice.
Especially for like a small town.
Yeah.
Like the theater program, amazing. My high school drama teacher, Lorianne Clancy, I would not be where I am today without her. Like, she pulled me out of my shell. She got me like into musicals. Because so my first year, she was doing a production of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Nice.
Begged me to audition for it, and I was like, no, I don't sing, I don't dance, don't do any of that stuff. So finally, the following year, she was doing another musical, dragged me into that, and it completely just changed my life.
Nice. That's amazing.
Yeah. And to this day, she still holds a grudge against me about Jesus Christ Superstar, but whatever.
That's hilarious. Shout out to those high school teachers that see something in us that we don't.
But it's funny because, so before my family left the city, my mom, she's worked with the Toronto Catholic School Board for the better part of 20 plus years. So when we moved up there, she took a 2-year leave of absence to try to find a similar position up north. Couldn't find work, unfortunately, so she ended up having to come back here when I started high school. And she ended up working at the high school that I would have gone to had we stayed in the city. And she always said to my sister and I, because my sister also got involved in the arts in high school as well, she always said to us that the arts program that we had at St. Teresa's compared to what was at her high school, night and day.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Shout out St. Teresa's.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you went to Ottawa after school. Was
I
that
did.
for the arts or something separate?
Totally different. I
Yeah?
went for criminology.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you were going to go into criminology.
Yeah,
Maybe a
'cause-
private investigator? You're going to be a cop? What
Probably
was
a
the plan?
lawyer, criminal lawyer of some kind.
Okay, nice.
Because, I mean, like, when I got to grade 12, I knew kind of deep down that I did want to pursue the arts, but I was, lightly discouraged by some people from doing it because, the whole typical thing, I'll go to university.
Pick something practical.
Practical, academic, right?
Yeah.
So decided, you know what, I did law class when I was in high school. I was really good at that. So I thought, okay, I'll do this maybe.
Nice.
Why not? So I went there, and Carleton doesn't have like a theater performance program. What they do have is a student-run theater company called Sock and Buskin Theater. And I could be wrong, but I think it's the longest running student-run company in the country.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I went there, and then within my first week, I ended up auditioning for a production of Rent that they were doing,
Nice.
and got cast as Mark right off the bat.
Nice.
So I was like fresh out of high school, 18 years old, the lead in a production of Rent, and I was like, what am I doing? Okay.
Were you scared?
Oh, so scared.
Yeah.
So scared. And looking back, I was probably maybe like a little too young to like really handle like that part and like that project altogether, but it was one of the best productions that I ever did. I think you had BB Brunches on.
Yes.
So we were in the same production of Rent.
No way.
Yeah.
Love. That's so cool.
Yeah,
Small
BB was
world.
Angel, I was Mark.
Love.
Yeah, and then that completely consumed like every like ounce of my spare time there, to the point that I was focusing more on that than my actual classes. And so a little while after that, I actually got asked to be part of the board of directors for the theater company going into my second year.
Nice.
So flash forward a year later, we're doing another musical. I'm on the board of directors. The summer between my second and what would have been my third year, I went back to Midland, and I was in a production of Legally Blonde, the musical. And right when performances for that started, I just had this moment of, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm not going back to school. This is what I want.
This is it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was like literally like 3 weeks before the school year started. I'm like, yeah, not going back.
Nice.
Yeah.
How'd your parents take that?
Better than I thought.
Yeah?
Yeah, a lot better. Because I think by that point, they'd also realized too that like this is what I was focusing on. This is what I really wanted to do. And it just made more sense than, wasting money to go get a degree that honestly wasn't going anywhere anyway. So
Yeah, fair enough. Nice. So what was your plan after that? You said no more school, and then what?
So I took a year off, went back home, I was working, and then I auditioned for a couple of theater schools here in Toronto. And then I got into a couple, but then I settled on Humber College.
Nice.
For theater school, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And how did you like Humber?
It was
Here it comes.
Here it comes. The typical, oh, here's my theater school trauma story.
Yes,
It
we
was,
live for it.
It was a pretty like turbulent and yeah, it was an interesting 3 years, I'll say.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all what I was expecting going in. It turned out to be very centered around physical devised theater, which I was totally unfamiliar with, had no idea what I was getting myself into once we actually started the program, because when I auditioned, they made it sound like, oh, we're going to teach you not only how to be an actor, but you're going to sing, dance, you're going to become like a real triple threat, you're going to learn how to write, stage combat, you're going to get some on-camera training. And I thought, oh, okay, this is awesome. I'll be like, a really well-rounded theater actor. And then didn't quite go the way that I thought it was going to. Again, like, no offense to devised physical theater, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I just felt very out of place a lot of the time that I was there. It was, I think like a lot of people that went to theater school talk about this as well, how there's, a lot of teachers will, take the work and make it seem like it's like this like sacred, holy gospel, then like everything you do has to be centered around this, every part of your being has to be just like focused on the work. And if you do anything different than what we're telling you, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I struggled with that a lot for the first year and a half that I was there. And I think that translated into me appearing like I had like a lot of stage fright and that I just wasn't comfortable even being a performer. I actually had like a lot of teachers telling me, hey, maybe this actually isn't for you. And then partway through my second year, I just said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to do it my way.
Nice.
I'm not going to listen to like, your directions, weird exercises or whatever. And then sure enough, where did this change come from? Like, it's night and day with you right now. And I'm like, okay.
Well, it wasn't you.
No, but you know what though? I do think it is important for a lot of actors to do that trial and error and figure out what doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
So they can figure out what does actually work.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Even with taking classes, like since school, I've been like, oh, this works for me and that works for me and this works 100%. For me, and you make your own kind of method instead of being like, I am strictly Stanislavski or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, 100%.
Kind of thing. Just
100%.
Figure out what works for you, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So, and with the Humber program, you can graduate with a union credit, right?
You can. I chose not to do it because I was kind of, like a lot of us were actually kind of advised against doing it just because we did not get a lot of on-camera training whatsoever. And so we were told, look, realistically, you need to take some on-camera training before you even think of going union.
Right.
Which is 100% true. I think there's a lot of people that unfortunately go union a little too early and they don't have the fundamental skills of knowing how to actually do a self-tape, how to just like, perform on camera as opposed to performing on the stage.
Yeah.
So, so I chose not to do it. I don't regret not going that route, but yeah, it's interesting too because when I was at Humber, we had the theater performance program, but then we also had the acting for film and television program, and we were very much pitted against each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just like from the staff or the students?
Oh, staff.
Staff, yeah?
Yeah. It was they really tried, and this is one thing I really didn't appreciate looking back, was the fact that a lot of the staff really tried to instill this sense of like, oh, you're the real actors, not them.
Yeah. I've had a teacher like that. Pissed me right off. Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah.
I there's nothing that annoys me more than really pretentious art people that are like, oh no, I know what art is. They're always British apparently. But yeah, it's like, it's frustrating that, there's more than one way and way more styles, etc. to art.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's frustrating.
And it's funny because I found out recently that apparently the theater performance program doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, really? It's now just theater, film, and television?
I think what it's called now is acting for the stage and film. So I
Okay.
think, from what I understand,
just-
they kind of just took like the acting for film and television program and added theater courses into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
nice.
I'm like, oh.
Might be better for today's landscape because there's more film and television than theater.
Well, even for theater though, I've seen like a lot of breakdowns for like musical auditions. You still have to do them on self-tapes now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Have you done any of those?
I've done a couple of them, not too many.
Okay, because I
but-
haven't done any, but the concept seems so strange in my
Yeah.
head to do a theater audition on
Yeah.
tape. Do I play big or do I play small because it's on tape?
Especially when they ask for like a dance recording as well. And you're just like, you're looking around your space. I'm like, how do I dance here?
Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's one thing I hope like a number of theater schools realize they need to really start implementing, because
Yeah.
until somebody says otherwise, self-tapes, that's just the way it's going to be
Yeah.
going forward. So
Yeah, so strange. Yeah, I've heard of that, and I still can't wrap my head around it. And then even if I asked a coach, would they know? It's such a new thing,
Right, yeah.
Right. So you would have to consult like somebody in theater casting. How do you want me? Like, do you want us to be like we're on stage, but it's just captured on tape, or do you want it smaller and intimate? You actually want to see the acting skill here. Yeah, it's very,
I don't know.
that's annoying.
Yeah.
It's annoying to me. And dancing, you're right, because like even full body slates and people's apartments in Toronto, we live in Toronto, like apartments are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. People are going to be doing full body slates or dance choreography in the streets because we don't have enough space
Pretty
to
much,
do
yeah.
things. It's absurd. Absurd. Have you done any musical theater recently?
No, it's been a long time since I've done musicals, unfortunately.
Do you want to do it again?
I'd love to get back into
Yeah?
it. It's just the thing, especially with the Toronto scene, I find that if you didn't go to musical theater school or if you didn't get a lot of formal training, the competition here is so intense.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it too comes down to Mervish, which is what most people think of when they think of Toronto theater.
Yeah.
And then most other theater companies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because getting into a Mervish production as a Canadian artist is so difficult,
Yeah.
because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a touring production of some kind.
Yeah.
And then with a bunch of other theater companies here, you're lucky if a production is going for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. Are you union in any of the
Non-union.
unions?
Non-union.
Non-union? Me too. Yeah, it's hard to get into the union, theater union especially, because I feel like film union could happen so many ways, right? Voiceover,
Right.
auditions, TV, film. Theater, just theater.
Just theater, yeah.
You know, so it's tricky. It's a tricky one, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, especially with like the current landscape of what's been going on in the industry, I'm actually pretty happy and comfortable being non-union at the moment.
Me too.
And literally every one of my union actor friends is saying to me, stay.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Stay there.
Yeah.
Stay. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird conversation. It feels like it changes all the time. Because I've said, I used to be like, oh, as soon as I can, I'm going to go straight into the union. Because my
Right,
theory
right.
was there's no shortage of white girls in the union. They're not going to go, oh, we couldn't find one. I guess we're going to go outside of the union to search for one. But with all the strikes and everything happening, and I feel like ACTRA needs to keep up a little bit more and come into present day a little bit more, I think it is beneficial to be non-union for me right now. So I don't know, it changes
Yeah.
all the time based on what's happening in the States and here. So it's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Tricky.
Well, and again, because I've had a lot of friends say to me recently that they've been averaging maybe an audition a month if they're lucky. And yeah, I know a lot of actors, they don't love to do a lot of commercial auditions, but you know, if you're able to get like at least like an audition or two a week during this period in time, and you get that rhythm and flow going, and then you get like very comfortable of like being on camera on a weekly basis. Once more opportunities open up, I think it just makes you flourish more.
Yeah. For sure, because you're keeping the muscles sharp and in the rhythm of continuously putting yourself on tape. Yeah, that's definitely true. You do a lot of Monologue Slam too.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Excellent. Tell me about Monologue Slam, and when did you find Monologue Slam?
I found Monologue Slam during COVID.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, because they were one of like the only outsources or whatever you want to call it that were actually like doing something during COVID for actors. And so, so I started submitting every single month just to do something. Yeah. Because especially like in the early days of COVID when nobody knew how long things were actually going to be shut down for. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so do you have a favorite monologue that you've done with Monologue Slam?
Oh, I would say my favorite one that I've done was probably the one I did a couple of months ago. I did a piece from The Boys where I got to play Homelander.
Nice. Yes, I did see that one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was the first time I ever actually made it to the finals, which was so much fun to do. Yeah. So much fun.
Oh yeah, because it'd be theater.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's performed live for that one, right? Like this is after COVID, only a couple months ago. Yeah. Okay, perfect.
But I love that format they have now because now it's okay. You have to find a piece that you can do both. Yeah. In a close-up. Yeah. But then also do it.
Maybe that'll help with the theater self-tapes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's what we should be doing. Monologue Slam. Because when I watched Monologue Slam finals, I'm always thinking about that of like, oh, they picked this because it was good on film. It doesn't translate as well on stage, or they've really adjusted this really well on stage because they recognize you're in it's a different medium, right? So that's so fun. So you got to the finals. Fun.
Got to the finals. It was an amazing experience. You get to meet like so many other actors. You get to meet so many amazing industry professionals. And it really does boggle my mind how many actors I talk to who just don't submit. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, are you going to do Monologue Slam this week? I don't know. I don't think I have time for it. And I'm like, you have a week to do a 2-minute monologue. Yeah. What are you going to do when you get like a 15-page audition that's doing 3 days?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this, I will admit. But yeah, it's very true. I think for me, the motivation of money, that 15 pages might get me paid. True. The Monologue Slam is just bragging rights, which I would also take sometimes. Like I am competitive, so that does work for me. But it might be that. But yeah, you're right. Like it's a free thing to do, and it's an exercise to keep the muscles sharp. So like, do it. It's so fun. It's so much fun.
I think another thing that's also really important is for a lot of actors who started during COVID or just before COVID who didn't get the opportunity to meet a lot of casting directors in person. Because a lot of times they'll bring in casting directors to be on the panel of judges, so you actually get to perform in front of casting and get to meet them one-on-one. So I think it's just a great way to go and just like meet a bunch of different people you wouldn't expect to and just get your face out there in some capacity. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. And did you get any good feedback from the panel?
I did. And I think for me, even though I didn't like make it to the top 3 or win that time, I think what was so important for me to hear was the confirmation from the panel because they'd seen me perform a bunch of times with a bunch of different submissions. And Andre specifically, him saying to me like, no, like you've grown, the work you're doing is working, just keep going with it. That to me meant more than winning.
Yes. Yeah. Ugh, I got chills. I love that. Because it's just a huge confirmation of like, it's paying off. Yeah. It may not be monetarily paying off or like winning awards paying off, but it's working. It's like going to the gym. Like you don't see the gains immediately. It's a long overtime thing. That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Is there any other competitions in the city that you've done? Just Monologue Slam mainly?
I've done, so Monologue Slam is the biggest one. I've done Artist to Artist a couple of times.
I was going to ask, because I do like that one too. And how have you liked that one? Do you like Monologue Slam or Artist to Artist better? Because it's scene versus monologue.
It's interesting because with Artist to Artist, it's all self-tape format. And you get a lot of like very specific, like broken down feedback for like the self-tape that you submit, which I think is really beneficial. But for me with Monologue Slam, because it's free.
True.
And even though like Artist to Artist, like it's a really good cause, sometimes it's just a little out of reach for some people to submit.
Yeah.
And I think there really is something to be said about working on a piece that you can do both on camera and on the stage. Because I think a lot of actors now are losing out on live performing, on getting like theater training, how to like actually perform in front of people, not just in front of a camera.
Yeah, for sure. Especially new ones that have maybe been acting since COVID or submitting to the Monologue Slam since COVID. Because sometimes you can tell somebody's on stage and they're very quiet. They don't know how to project yet because no one told them or they hadn't been through any theater training or anything like that. So you play it the same as on film. And it's good to learn the lesson that it doesn't translate the same as film for sure.
I think it's also just having eyes on you, like having
That's
people
true.
in person like watching you act, because I don't think there's a lot of actors who started recently that are like accustomed to doing that unless they've been in an acting class or they've been on set with a number of people watching them.
Yeah.
And I've been hearing a really interesting thing recently about how certain casting directors are actually wanting to get back into the room for auditions, because apparently what's been happening is there's a lot of newer actors who've just started in the last couple of years who are booking purely off of self-tapes, but then as soon as they get onto set, they don't know how to take direction, they don't know how to be in the environment of having a bunch of cameras from different angles on them. And I think there's just like a lack of transition that's missing for new actors right now that I think needs to start getting addressed a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I even started auditioning in person. The first set I was on, I had to cry, and I was like, all of these people behind the crew, they've all seen real actors. And I was like, they're gonna find out today that I can't cry or whatever.
Jab myself in the eye quickly,
yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my God, there's so much pressure because they've seen other people actually do it and do it well. What if I don't? And so it is, I think in the audition room that does help too. And it just helps with the collaboration, the collaborative experience, right? Like
100%,
with the redirection and whatnot. Like all you're gonna get from a self-tape is whatever your reader has. And hopefully there's somebody in the arts, but if they're not, then they're not gonna be able to, give you redirects like you would in an audition room.
Yeah, but I've been changing my mindset about self-tapes recently because, again, until somebody says otherwise, this is just the reality of what we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I've been saying to a lot of my actor friends who are, saying like, oh, I hate doing self-tapes. Like, I just want to be back in the room. And I say to them, don't think of it as a self-tape. Think of it as your close-up shot.
Nice.
Just think of it as like you're already on set. This is your close-up. Get really good at performing in a tight space so that once you actually do get to set, you've already got it mastered.
Yeah, for sure. I saw someone, it was either like Actors Roundtable or Actors on Actors, something like that. Oh no. Do you know what I lie? I think it was a past guest that I've had saying something similar. But she was saying that it is the same as your close-up. Like you're either talking to your reader, sometimes you're talking to like that dot next to the camera or whatever, you don't have a person there. So like what you have on your self-tape should be very similar to a close-up on the day of shooting kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, because it's a mix of that response of like, it's the same, so to treat it the same, and the other side of being like, oh, acting on set and acting as a self-tape are two different beasts. And I think it depends on the project.
Exactly.
I think it depends on the situation and the team, you know, who's shooting it, whether it's the same or different. If everything's shot and your other actor that you're bouncing off of is there in the room and it's wide shots and you're moving around, then it's going to be different than a self-tape. But you're right, if it's close up, it's going to be the exact same. So treat it as such. I don't necessarily hate auditions. I hate getting ready for auditions. I'm like, I got to spend time to look presentable for an audition. So I like to hopefully pack them all in one day. But then that never happens. It never happens like that. They always come pretty sporadically at the moment.
And then you finish one, and then you look at your phone, you got another one. You're like, okay,
yeah,
I gotta do this again.
Oh no, another one.
What is my life right now?
So difficult. Did I wish for this? That's crazy.
Is this how manifesting works?
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'll just go on to the next one. The people are calling. Do you have a preference between drama, comedy? Of like what you wanna play?
I don't think I have like a preference between the genres. For me, it's just more so about the character and the story.
Right.
Yeah.
You prefer a good character, good story?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. I'm like, for me, it's like, as long as the characters are interesting, as long as the story is interesting and compelling, genre to me is kind of irrelevant in a sense.
Fair. That's fair. Do you have a dream role that you would want to play?
Ooh, I really want to do like a very iconic villain or anti-hero.
Nice. Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah, going back to Homelander.
Going back to Homelander. Excellent. You're manifesting it. Exactly.
They have one more season left.
Yeah, that's right. Get in there. Get in there. He's here. Call him.
I'm available.
That's awesome. You have an agent right now?
I do.
Excellent. Who's your agent?
Warren Bell at Henharp Management.
Nice. And how long have you been with that agency?
I've been with Warren for just over a year now.
Okay, nice.
And it's interesting because even he says the same thing, where it kind of feels like the agency's only been around for 6 months, because we only just got breakdown services back in June, I believe it was. So for the first 6 months that I was with the agency, we were just relying solely on casting workbook and some other sources. And so going into this year, it'll be the first like full calendar year where we have like everything at our disposal for auditions.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you do voiceover as well, or just acting?
I don't. I've been told I should get into it.
You do have a great voice.
Oh, well, thank you.
But yeah.
If you say so.
If I must. Is this your first agent, or have you had multiple agents?
First agent.
First agent? Nice, nice. And when you were sending out your stuff to agencies, what did you have? Did you have, because I personally didn't have a demo. So did you have like headshot, resume, the basics, or did you have a demo?
It depends on the year, because there was a good like 5 years or so where I was trying to get an agent and was just getting no response whatsoever.
I feel that.
And so with Warren, I don't even know if I sent him a demo. I think I sent him like headshot and resume. I actually got into contact with him through my acting teacher, Angela Bishara, at the Lighthouse.
Nice.
Because she was like recommending him to a bunch of us who were struggling to find agents or needed to switch agencies. And yeah, he's been amazing to work with.
Nice.
He worked as an actor for a long time before becoming an agent, so he knows firsthand the experience that everybody is going through. So he has like all the connections with casting directors, so he knows, for this casting director, do this with your audition because this is what they prefer, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And he's really committed to doing weekly sessions with the roster. So every Sunday we'll do a big Zoom meeting where we all get together, and he'll just talk to us about things that are going on in the industry, things that are going well with the agency, things that people in the industry need to work on. Then he recently also started doing weekly workshop training sessions for us.
Nice.
because, in this economy, sometimes acting classes can get a little pricey.
Fair.
And so he's been trying to source out some studio spaces or just like random spaces for us just to get together, bring whatever work we want, just to have 2 hours a week to do some kind of acting.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And weekly.
Oh yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah. I tell a lot of my friends about this, and they're like, "Your agent does what?"
I know. My agent does something similar, more monthly than weekly, but yeah, very involved in the roster. And like we have a group chat and everything. Never had that with any other agent that I've been with.
It's really important, especially when you're first starting off, because I think a lot of people, they'll get like a first agent and then they'll just hear nothing from them unless it's about an audition or something. So I think just having that guidance, that weekly connection, it really does make a difference.
Yeah. 100%. Weekly is nuts. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
He's committed.
That's amazing.
He's committed.
When you were applying to agents and hearing nothing back, were you finding your own work, or were you just holding on to hope? How'd you make it through those times?
Still asking myself that. So I graduated from theater school about 8 months before COVID hit. So during that time, I was self-submitting. I was like really getting into the groove of things. And then COVID hit, derailed a lot of things. And so I actually ended up moving back up to the Midland area.
Okay.
Because I figured there's something going on in Toronto. Why am I down here?
Fair.
So up there, I was trying to do some acting classes online. I was doing Monologue Slam, started some other projects. Got involved in a short film with your producer, Chantel, over there, actually.
Shout out!
Which actually ended up being the only project during COVID that I actually completed.
Nice. Yeah. It's hard to finish projects. It's hard to start projects. And then to get, do you have a lot of, you went to set, you did this independent thing, and now you'll never see that footage again?
Oh yeah,
I have a few of those.
Everybody has.
Right?
Everybody.
I was like, and that was nice.
So I was doing some online acting classes, and my teacher at the time was really actively trying to help me to get representation, but I was just, nobody wanted to take me on, and then eventually I was just getting like a little slightly discouraged with how things were going, and then it was 2022 when I decided to come back to the city full time. I had just recently quit drinking. I'm like, okay, I need to get my life together because things got a little messy during COVID.
Fair.
So I came back here. I ended up getting a job as a server and a bartender, which then completely consumed my life for the better part of 2 years. And during that period, I was doing monthly acting classes, but I wasn't really making an effort with putting myself out for auditions or self-submitting or really doing anything, because I was like, oh, I'm making some good money here. I'm just going to focus on this for a little bit. And then after a while, I was like, no, I really need to solidify that this is, what I want to do. I need to make some changes with my schedule here to actually try to accommodate this. And then earlier this year, after some drama at work, for lack of a better term, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave and just try acting full time, see what happens.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Nuts. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you found that work-life balance, but you're like, and then I left. That's amazing. Yeah. How's it been going for you so far?
It's been interesting. It's been interesting. I mean, this year in particular, I think every actor in the city is saying the same thing, of 2024 was not the most ideal year for work.
Fair.
But for me, I actually kind of really embraced the fact that it wasn't super busy for projects, because at least for myself, looking back and looking at where I am now, I really do think that this year was the most pivotal and transitional year in terms of my growth as an actor. Just looking back at work that I was doing in my acting class last week compared to earlier this year, I was like, okay, something definitely something definitely changed here.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you think changed?
I think what it was realizing that there were still certain things within my personal life that I needed to change and alter, some bad habits that I needed to avoid, and to find different ways to really kind of ground myself in my daily life. Because I full-heartedly believe that if you are not taking care of yourself properly, physically, mentally, spiritually, at some point or another, it's going to show up on the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
In some capacity or another.
Yeah, 100%. Even the best editors can't get that out.
Yeah.
So you're over a year sober now?
It will be actually 3 years next month.
No way. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Did you just decide to cut cold turkey and make the switch, or was it a gradual fading out?
It started as dry January.
Okay.
And then I realized that during that period that like, no, I need to cut ties with this like altogether, because admittedly, like, I was an alcoholic. I have like an addictive personality, and I thought, you know what? I've tried in the past to just make it a casual thing. I don't have that ability to do it, so I gotta just cut it out together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good self-awareness of you. That's awesome. And so how has it been since quitting? Has it been hard? Is it, once you made the decision, it was pretty final in your head?
It's been interesting, because 6 months after I quit was when I got my first restaurant job. And looking back, I don't know if necessarily it was the best timing to like jump into a serving and bartending job being like that freshly sober. But I was able to, get through it to the best of my ability at that point in time. And for me now, it's funny because I still think about it. I still think, and like I can still like taste alcohol, but I just know it's for the best and not go back into it. So it's a little bit of like a mental game I still have to play with myself, but I know that this is what I have to do.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. And do you find social situations difficult at all? Like, have you lost friends because you've made this change?
Nope.
Oh, no?
No.
Oh, that's good.
It's
You've
funny
got good
because
friends.
well, it's funny because, and it's hard for me to describe this to people that didn't know me when I was a drinker. 9 times out of 10, I would still be the most like sober person amongst like a group of drinkers, because I just had like a very naturally high tolerance to alcohol.
Yeah.
So for me, it was weird because even when I was drinking, I almost kind of had a lot of experiences like being in bars and that kind of environment in a sober mindset. So I actually didn't have to like stop going to bars to hang out with friends. I was able to just kind of sit there and be like, oh, I'm actually kind of used to this already. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I find any events that I've decided that I'm not drinking at, and I feel like maybe I'm going to be socially awkward, or it's going to be uncomfortable, or it's going to be a thing, I remember everybody else is drunk. Nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, quite literally.
No one's going to remember.
No one's going to remember, and they're all worried about themselves, and no one's even going to know. So I find it easier that way too. But yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on making that decision. I'm sure your liver thanks you.
My liver and my wallet.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It is so expensive.
It's
so expensive to be an alcoholic, or like any kind of addiction.
Even just to go out casually now. I look at my bill compared to my friends' bills, and I'm like, okay.
It's like one drink is like what a meal used to be. It's like $15 to $20, depending if you get like, if it's a cocktail, it's $15. If it's a beer, it's like $9, $10, whatever. But still.
That's why when I was working as a bartender and I would see the prices like constantly going up, I would just be like, oh, I got to make sure I make these drinks properly now, because that's a big investment for people.
Right? Yeah. I know. They're dropping like $2 bills on a night of drinking. It's crazy.
But it's funny because like this year I also realized that there were like other smaller addictions, I guess, for lack of a better term, that I kind of had to phase out. Serving being one of them, actually.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize it until you're away from it, when you're earning a lot of tips.
The tip money? Yeah. Yeah, it is addicting.
Oh, yeah.
It's so addicting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in it.
There's that. Coffee for me was a big one this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm usually not a coffee drinker. Yeah, I picked it up in the summer. And usually I'm like an iced coffee girl. And so I'll have it in the summer, and then by the time like it gets cold, I'll go back to tea. But because I now work at a breakfast place, I'm drinking coffee all the time. And I'm like,
theater school turned me into such a full-blown coffee addict. I was drinking the better part of at least like 4 to 5 coffees a day for the past decade.
That's nuts.
So now I'm down to 1 a day. And it was really funny. And I think this was honestly like a big shift for me when I was like looking at my performances on camera, especially, was once I cut back on it, I realized, oh, my just like everyday baseline was so much more stimulated than I thought it was. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because then, like especially in the last couple of months in particular, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a lot more just kind of like laid back, not as anxious anymore. It's the coffee. Yeah.
Just more grounded.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I gotta cut back coffee now. I'm gonna do this science project.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite set that you've been on?
Favorite set?
Or favorite project, if it's a musical versus film? Film.
I would say my favorite project that I ever got to do for theater was back in Midland. I was in a production of Rock of Ages.
Amazing.
Back in 2017, I think it was. And that actually ended up being the last musical that I ever did.
Oh, yeah?
And it was one of like I don't know if you've ever been like in a show where you look around and you look at the cast and everybody, and you're like, everybody was so perfectly cast for this project.
Yes.
Like it was one of the best experiences I've had on stage.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, when casting nails it.
Yeah.
And you all get along. That's
a big thing too. Yeah. That's a big thing.
There's no drama.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And on top of that, when you're in a musical and you're like, oh, everybody can actually sing in this production.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's and like even Rock of Ages, because people look at it, they're like, oh, it's just, it's a silly, goofy musical. It was one of the most vocally demanding things I've ever had to take on. The harmonies in that show are nuts. It's ridiculous.
Nice. Yeah. Amazing. That's so cool. Do you have any vocal warm-ups or tips and tricks for your voice?
It's funny because a lot of it, I don't have like a lot of actual like formal singing training, so I have to fall back a lot on what I did in theater school. And for me, I was fortunate enough to get a little bit of coaching for singing there. And honestly, for me, it's yawning.
Yeah?
Yep. Yawning is like probably like the best thing you can do for your voice, regardless if it's for singing, if it's for, just talking, dialogue, or anything like that, because it stretches everything, opens everything up, but it also engages your parasympathetic nervous system, so that it just kind of helps to relax you, ground you.
Nice.
I remember when we were in theater school, our singing teacher, she would have us stand in a circle at the start of every single class, and there would be a garbage can and a box of Kleenex in the middle of the circle, and we would have to stand there and just yawn for 15 minutes. And the reason for the Kleenex was because when you yawn enough, everything just loosens up with like your nose. So you're just like dripping.
Just drooling.
You gotta like blow your nose constantly just to clear everything out. And then you finish and you just feel so zen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who are your biggest inspirations for your career?
Ooh, that's a good one. I also love that you say inspirations and not idols, because a lot of people ask me like, oh, who are your idols? And I'm like, I don't idolize other people. Like that's
right.
it's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. I would say my broad response to that question is actors who are able to transition from film and television to theater seamlessly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And often they're like they were raised, or they started off in theater and then went to film, and then they come back to theater and whatnot. Nice. Do you like film or theater more?
It's
If they paid the same.
If they paid the same, that's right. In terms of what I enjoy watching, I would say film, just because it's a lot more easily accessible. But in terms of performing, it's like I love being on set. I love performing in front of the camera, but there really is just like a totally different energy you get when you're on a stage, like in a theater space with people watching you, that you can't replicate with film.
Yeah, the excitement of standing in the wings before you go on.
Yeah.
That's the best. Yeah, I love that. What do you use for memorization? Anything specific or just repetition?
I am that guy, and like a lot of people just like roll their eyes at me when I say this. I'm just that guy that can read it a couple of times and it's just there. And I didn't realize this until maybe last year or so, but because for me, everyone's like, oh, it's so good that you can memorize lines quickly. But then I actually realized that sometimes it's a detriment if you memorize it too quickly, because memorize the lines, have it all in your head, and you think, oh, I got the scene. I know how the scene's supposed to go. But you didn't actually do like the homework to see like, oh, what's between the lines? Why am I saying this? Why is this person saying this back to me?
That's fair. That's fair. And then do you get stuck in how to say it?
Oh, Oh, yeah.
Right? Because you read it one way, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to say this line like this.
Yep.
Every time. And then if I don't say it like this, I'm going to be thinking about it for the rest of this scene. I'm going to be like,
that is something that thankfully I finally got away from for the most part this year.
Nice.
But yeah, that was a big struggle for me for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And Monologue Slam helps with that too, because you kind of have to be prepared for the redirect, and then so it's almost beneficial to practice it a bunch of ridiculous different kind of ways, so that when they ask you to do anything, you're just ready. So you've done it a million times, a million different ways.
Yeah, I was at the finale that they had a couple of weeks ago for the Battle of the Champions.
Yes.
And Andre made a really good point as a piece of advice for everybody performing that night, which was take whatever you came in with as your plan A and make that your plan B.
Ooh. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard to do.
It's so hard to do.
In my head.
It's so hard to do.
But it's so true. Yeah. And even applying that to like on set works really well. Like, it's because it goes with, everybody says do the work it, and know it really, really well, inside and out, upside down, backwards, and then forget it. But plan B just gives it a different kind of visual that I like, of instead of just forget all the work you've done, because I go, what if I forget the words?
I think I almost kind of feel like the saying like, oh, like forget the work is the wrong phrase to use for a lot of people, because you still need to know like what you did with the work, but you just have to trust that whatever you did with your prep is enough to just let you be in the moment.
Yeah. Know that your work is enough.
Yeah.
I like that.
One thing that my teacher Angela has said a lot is, especially when it comes to being on camera, is to just trust that you are interesting in yourself. Like, don't worry about having to perform something because, oh, I got to make this moment interesting. Just trust that you are interesting enough.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I'm digesting that. That makes sense. Yeah, because you don't want to force. As soon as you force something, you can tell immediately on camera that it's forced.
Oh, the camera doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Camera does not lie.
Knowing that you're interesting just as you are because you're being, because someone said, I forget who it was, but they said there was a theater performance going on and a cat jumped on stage and everybody was watching the cat because it was just being and it wasn't trying, it wasn't acting, it was just being a cat. And so everybody was watching the cat instead of the performance. And that's kind of the same thought, is just know that you're interesting enough just being rather than forcing some reaction or whatever.
That's why a lot of actors say never work with animals or with babies, because you will never be more present than them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's very true. Thinking of all the animal and baby films ever. Like,
now how hard it must have been to get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's a big reason why a lot of coaches like to do a lot of like animal work with actors. I know Angela loves to do it because it just really does force you to be more present, because if you're an animal, you don't plan things out in advance. You're just taking it moment by moment.
Yeah, very true. Literally surviving.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. What's another big takeaway that you've got from her classes?
Ooh. See, what I love about working with her is she comes from both the world of theater and film and television as well, and she knows how to cross-pollinate.
Nice.
So for her, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. She knows how to help you transition from one end to get to the next end. And she doesn't ever want you to throw away what you came into class with. She's always saying to us, like, don't ever feel like if you're coming from musical theater, you need to put that to the side to be on film. You just got to figure out how to take your musical ability and just transition it a little bit and just readjust it a little bit.
Nice.
Because she will teach you how to do self-tape. She does a lot of on-camera scene study work, and then she also does what's called the scene study masterclass. So you get assigned a partner for a month, and you get assigned a play, and usually it'll be like a 15-page scene that you have to work on for 4 weeks together, just to like really get into like the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
Just get into the muck of the work.
The muck of the work. Like a peg.
Yeah.
Just rolling in the muck.
Yeah, because it's just, it's just about having fun.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of actors, they've really stressed themselves out unnecessarily when it comes to classes of like having to, I gotta prove something. I gotta show that I'm good.
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of that as well.
Yeah. Same.
But everybody is. But no, it's just, you gotta realize, you're just going there to learn. You're just going there to try things out, and then whatever happens, just happens. And then,
right?
Yeah.
I think that's also a first class thing. Whenever you start a new class and you go to the first, so everybody like doesn't know each other, so they're all like sitting around like, oh, what if they think I'm shit, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or if it's your first class and you're young, you're naive and thinking like, this actor or this teacher is gonna get me somewhere, that they're gonna recommend, if they see I'm amazing, they're gonna send me out for this, and then that'll be it, and I'll be making it, that kind of thing. But yeah, then you realize really quickly, you're just like, oh, we're all here to A, fail, and B, learn, and play and collaborate and make a mess in the muck.
And have fun,
Yeah.
Because I don't care like what reason you have for getting into acting or like why you're doing it. If you're not having fun, it doesn't make sense.
It's never that serious.
Yeah.
Back to our art pretentious people, it's never that serious. Yeah. It's not brain surgery. We're not saving lives.
No.
We're entertaining.
And look, like art obviously is like super like influential and like inspiring.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that go into have a mindset of like everything that they do has to inspire, has to prove a point, has to do this or that. And it's just, no, you just have to just let it be, and like whatever comes out of it just comes out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're not responsible for the result.
No.
Like people are going to take your art how they're going to take it. You may change people's minds and influence people, but that's not in your hands.
Yeah, you can't care about like what the audience is going to think about what you're doing in a moment, because you can't control how they're going to react to you. So.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Is there anything you wanted me to ask you or talk about before I ask you a final question?
Nothing that I can think of at the moment.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Covered all the good stuff?
Pretty much.
Excellent. Yay. Alrighty, final question. So my final questions for you are, first one is, what would you tell your younger self starting out in your creative journey if you could give past self some advice?
Just trust yourself more and don't worry about what other people think.
'Tis hard to do.
It's still hard to do.
Yeah, yeah, right? It's a daily exercise. But yeah, it's definitely important for sure. For sure. I'm hoping with maturity that disappears one day. It's
Someday in the future.
Yeah, you know how like old people just absolutely don't give a shit? I want to get to that level of giving no
feel like
fucks.
I'm finally starting to taste it a little bit, because I'm turning 30 next year, and I'm so done with my 20s at this point.
Yeah.
I can finally like taste like the I don't give a shit part of my life anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm ready for it.
Yes. Excellent. Love it. And if you could give this chapter in your life a title, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I didn't come up with it, but I love the question.
What would I call this chapter? I think I would call it Turning a New Leaf.
Turning a new leaf. You did say 2024 was a pretty transformative year. Excellent. And what are the things you're turning? If I can do a follow-up question.
What am I turning?
Yeah, like what kind of transitions? Like we're going from caring to what people think into not caring as much what people think. What's something else that we're...
I think it's just my work in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, like just like, and even my agent was saying this to me recently, just like there's been like a noticeable shift just in the past couple of months with how comfortable I'm looking on camera, just, you know, the ease and like the ebb and the flow that I have, you know, being in class, like working on set with people, it just feels like something kind of clicked this year.
Nice.
That hadn't clicked in a long time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on down to my podcast.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I thought
Likewise.
it was great. Excellent. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I'll see you next time in the next interview.